changed different now, I got the cheat code. A lot of y'all just watching, you ain't got the cheat code. Can't stay the same, yeah, you gotta switch it up. Can't stay the same, yeah, you gotta switch it up. Game changed different now, I got the cheat.
All right, welcome back to the Goddess Giselle podcast. Y'all, I hope y'all are having a wonderful day. I'm so excited that you are here with us. You are tuned into episode 5, a conversation with Adeola Sokunbi. Okay, and before we jump into that, I want to first thank you so much for being here. I created this platform to really create a safe space for women who are making an impact across the world and in their communities. I want to be able to highlight their their stories, have a genuine conversation so we can really shed light on some women making an impact in the community. So without further ado, we're just going to jump right in. So hi, Adeola. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Good. Still kind of full and on a high from this weekend, which we can talk about. But before we jump in, for my audience, if you could share your name, your location, and something about your profession / career, and a little bit of your family life. So if you wear a hat, if you have your own family and stuff like that, and we're just going to jump right into the conversation.
Okay. My name's Adeola Sokunbi. I am in Atlanta, born and raised in Metro Atlanta. And so I love it. That's first and foremost. And professionally or career-wise, I would say that I am a hospitality maven. Everything had to do with hospitality I love. So when it comes to my passion for cooking, my passion for hosting people, my passion for even teaching people on how to be smarter entrepreneurs within the hospitality space, that is something that I just live and breathe. So all things hospitality. I have my business called Yolaskitchen. Yola is a nickname that I got in high school. Again, I said I grew up in Atlanta, so people weren't saying Adeola, it was Yola. So decided to create that and use it as my business name. And funny enough, Yola is actually a city in Nigeria, but that's not necessarily how the name came about, but I'll take it. And then I also have a consulting arm of my business called Ayo Hospitality, and I'm Yoruba, and so the word Ayo means happy or joy. And so again, just threading through the whole idea of being in love with hospitality. So happy hospitality, joyful hospitality is the consulting arm of my business.
Wow. That is so nice. And on this podcast, I really like to hone in on the idea of a woman being able to juggle multiple facets of herself. So we do get a little personal. So please just be a little transparent. And I ain't gonna get too much in your business, but I do like to bring in that personal piece because, I think as women, we often lean into the business side and the entrepreneurship stuff. But I believe that you can have it all as a woman, and you can have the family, the life, the pets, or if you decide to expand one day. And I like to encourage that. So even if it might be new for you, we are going to get a little personal as well. So talk to me a little bit about your family life, if you're dating or if you're single, or what season are you in?
I am in my single season. We'll start there.
Okay.
I am a daughter of an amazing mom and dad. I'm the oldest daughter, so that comes with its own set of challenges, honestly.
Okay.
There's the plus side of being a go-getter and having to figure things out for yourself, which you need as a business owner. But then on a personal side, sometimes when you're going through something or trying to find an outlet, I get so used to holding everything in and having this, brave face that I'm just now learning to be more transparent about how I feel personally in my journey when it comes to dating, when it comes to even just platonic friendships. Literally relearning what it's like to be transparent. So it's funny that you bring this up because it's literally some of the things me and my therapist are talking about is just, being able to be open and be okay with how you're feeling in the moment. So, yeah.
Yes, girl. Now, I am not a therapist, nor am I trained as a therapist, but I do have an appreciation for talk therapy, if you will. And maybe that's what this whole platform is. Maybe I needed talk therapy, so I created this space for myself.
Probably.
That makes sense. Exactly. So, because I feel like I said, especially as I like to call us high achieving women, right? Not value, because a woman is valuable as she is. She does not have a value put on her. Okay, period. Women are valuable as they are. I mean, we have so many supernatural capabilities, not just having children, but being intuitive, being able to bring people together, really all of the elements of your businesses. I would think to hone into that divine, feminine, innate energy that's within all women. And so as high functioning, high achieving women, sometimes we don't get space to just be girls or be like, okay, I have an attitude. I'm kind of over this. I just want to walk away. Give me a minute. And I want to, so this space is for that, because you get like girl to girl, boss to boss, chief to chief, being able to have that transparent conversation. But we ain't gonna get too deep into your business, but I do invite the conversation. So, and like I said, I just really admire your strength and really being, and that's another thing that kind of triggers us a little bit.
Yeah,
you're just so strong. You want to be strong. Exactly. So before we jump in, I love how you mentioned that you're the eldest daughter. So how many siblings do you have?
I have 2 younger sisters.
So it's 3 girls. You're the oldest,
Yeah.
2 younger sisters.
Yeah.
So you are what is it? The Older Sister Appreciation Committee. Okay. Talk to me. So if you are an older sister, because I see a lot of conversation online about this position, right? And I feel like you all, and I'm the baby, so this is ironic because you get to, I think I learned that when we first met. I'm the baby. So of course I'm over here. Just be happy. I'm so happy. But my older sister is really the opposite, if you will, because I know she carried me, she carried my sister, and it's 3 sisters too.
Really?
And it's 3 girls, and I was the baby. And I feel like although my sisters and I, we have a really close relationship as far as growing up and stuff, I think that I learned so much from my sisters without them even teaching me. So talk to me about what it looks like as the older sister, and I guess the weight. Like, this is a safe space, like the weight, but also the responsibility that you feel towards your sisters.
Yeah, so it always was ingrained to be a good example. And I think a lot of times that can present its own pressures, because not only are you figuring out the things, right? And I think sometimes people don't realize too, while we may be the oldest sibling, we're the youngest when it comes to the adults telling us what to do. Right. So it's like this weird expectation of being able to lead by example, be a lead by example. But then it's like, but I'm still here learning it for the first time. And then, I'm searching for my examples, but because I'm the first child, my examples are people that are well into their adulthood that have made the mistakes. And so it's like I think one of the misconceptions of being the oldest child is sometimes it's like people forget that we're actually stuck in the middle. I know the middle child, they feel and they have all these emotions, but really the oldest is the one that's the liaison. And like people try to say, like, you say like the oldest daughter is like the project manager of the family. You're trying to, like, as much as you're setting an example for the younger sibling, I was teaching my parents things, right? Like we're millennials. So we're in the age where digital, like AOL was coming into play and all that kind of stuff. And really it also helped me see how much I did enjoy hospitality, because when we did go on family trips, I was booking it online. So it's like you have the responsibility of, again, leading by example, but you're also teaching up. You're also managing up. Like your parents, or at least from a millennial perspective, like my parents didn't have all the answers. Like even when it comes to like applying for colleges. My parents, literally studied abroad and then came here to have me. So that whole process of visiting colleges, applying, registering for my SATs, ACTs, like looking back, I was like, oh, 16 years old doing all this stuff. But it's like, you're guiding your parents too. Like you're literally stuck between two worlds. It's like you have the responsibility as an adult, but you don't have the freedom and the privileges as an adult yet either. So
wow.
It's a lot to unpack.
It is. And Adeola, thank you for saying that out loud, because believe it or not, and that's why we're having these conversations. I had a friend who was the oldest daughter, and she would complain, vent, whatever. Literally what you just said. She said, I had to figure it out. I had to go on there and apply for college myself. I had to go get the FAFSA, because remember, it was digital, and it was an integration from I guess paper to digital everything. And so she shed light on the fact that she had to do this all by herself, but you did too.
Yes.
So maybe there's a trend here, but we don't have the data because nobody even asked how you were doing.
Correct. Oh,
girl, I got you. Look, now my Nigerian popping out. I got you, girl. And I think that is so powerful. And what we have, and now because of the past and what you were able to figure out, has actually translated into something that's really impactful for your own pursuits and passions. So let's talk a little bit how you. Gosh, where do I want to start? Let's talk about how you got into the industry of hospitality. So that was a great segue. So it started, being the oldest daughter, kind of having to be more responsible, making more decisions. But then that kind of translated into something a little bit more magical, which is where we are nowadays. But how did you even get into the industry of hospitality? Like what got you inspired to kind of go in that field?
Well, the inspiration definitely came from my upbringing. As you know, Nigerians look for an excuse to have a party. Like today's Tuesday, we're gonna have a party. So being immersed in that growing up just made me really, really excited. And like the day that I found out that the day I discovered the Food Channel was the day I was like, oh my gosh, I want to be a chef. I want to be a chef. I want to be able to cook all these awesome dishes. I loved watching Emerald. I loved watching, 30-minute meals and all these different things. And so getting up into high school, like I had made the decision that I was going to go to Le Cordon Bleu. And I had a very thoughtful conversation with my mom, which consisted of, okay, how much is this tuition? Which at the time was over $100,000. And she was like, okay, how much do you make as an entry-level cook? And the math was not mathing, right? But I knew that not only did I have a passion for cooking, I did have that bug, or I guess some people say, being bit to be an entrepreneur. I was surrounded by entrepreneurs. So it didn't come, it came naturally to me. And I was like, okay, you know what a compromise would be, or not even a compromise. The advice she gave to me is go to school, get your business degree, and work in a restaurant. One, for you to see if you like it. Two, for you to get the training. And then how about they pay you to train and versus you doing it the other way around. And so getting into college, I attended Georgia State University, and I majored in hospitality. And that just opened up the windows of being able to study abroad, being able to work part-time while I was in school, because I stayed in Georgia, stayed in Atlanta, went to school in Atlanta, there. And so I had the support and quite frankly, the financials to be able to go to college on a full scholarship using Hope Scholarship. And so, I was, positioned well to explore, because I think that's one thing for people to understand. A lot of the times our creativity is stifled by the lack of finances. And so you can still have a dream, but if you're so focused on how you're going to make that money back, it stifles your creativity. Some people like being pushed against the wall, but I bet you if you had a choice, you'd rather not, because especially if you're balancing the creative side of your brain and the business side of your brain, having that pressure of having to monetize it before you even have the ability to know your full potential is something that we'll get to later of why we started some of the businesses that I've started. But really being able to go to school, not have to worry about student loans, and then work and earn money while I was going to school and learning was, I wouldn't change it for anything. And so after that, I had a chance to work the Olympics in 2012, which was
what?
really, yeah, that was New Georgia.
Where was the Olympics in 2012?
It was in London. It was in London.
Oh,
So
wow.
it was a really beautiful experience. You got to see people from all over the world. And it was just so exciting. And that's really what, at first sparked my bug about seeing how sports and entertainment interweave with hospitality. Because all the athletes have to eat, right? All the parties are there, welcoming people, hosting people. Even we worked for Coca-Cola, so we had to stock all the coolers with Coca-Cola, and that's over 200,000 people, right?
Wow.
So it's like you're thinking about the sport. Everyone thinks about the athletes, but no one's really necessarily thinking about the team of people that it takes to serve everybody. And so when I saw that, I definitely liked the idea of large scale events, which made me transition back to Atlanta. And I was working at the Georgia Dome again, Atlanta from beginning to end. Okay.
Atlanta has been good to you.
It really has. So the Georgia Dome, which is now Mercedes-Benz Stadium, and I worked there. And again, like major events coming through, SEC championships, and eventually going up into 2019, 2020 season, the Super Bowl. And so I worked on the event side of things and did sales. So I was, my role to better compare it was I was doing the contracts to bring the major events, to the center was what we would call it. But there was a convention center, the stadium, and Centennial Olympic Park, which was my favorite. And so that came through. I have another poster here, the Outcast concerts. That was
which one? Hold on, in 2014.
Yes, ma'am. The 10-year anniversary. Yes, it literally. I was there too. So.
Oh my God, that is so cool.
Yeah, and
did
so.
I know that?
Yeah, no, probably not. But yeah, like that was.
That's pretty cool. That's not a weird flex at all. That's actually the ultimate flex. So let's rewind now, because you load me up with a whole lot of content here. The richness of this conversation is just mind-blowing, because rewind back to, you went from, okay, I'm going to study hospitality management, and ended up at the London Olympics.
Yes.
See, mentally, that really helps me. And I want to mentally stimulate the audience, but also enlarge our mindset on our capacity, because I feel like, and I come from a small town, but like my mind is always getting bigger every day. Hearing you say that from your own for what you already done, that is mentally so mind-blowing, because it helps you open your mind. And it's like, for example, this is so petty, but whatever. We think when someone might think, okay, chef, okay, McDonald's, right? Okay, I'm flipping burgers. And then we have one of the most popular movies, it was Coming to America, which came out the year I was born, but it was a big cultural staple in African American culture, right? And so what did he do? He's this African prince, but then he comes to America to work at McDonald's and took a lot of pride in his work. So these are the controlling images, which I am rebuking, because there are so many other images, but if we haven't seen them, then you don't even know they exist, which is why I'm so happy you're here today, Adeola, to shed light on other pathways or other avenues to your own version of success. So you've been to London.
Yes.
You've worked on the Outcast at Last event. You've worked for one of the biggest entertainment complexes in Georgia, definitely in Georgia, but I would even say in the Southeast, because a lot of people come to Atlanta to kick it. So then you have this so you have this huge population of people and this epicenter of high vibrations and entertainment. And you found your own way in the world of hospitality and management.
Yes.
Wow.
Thank you so much.
Girl, pause for that. Let me give you a snap, honey, because if my kid came talking about she want to be a chef, I'd be like, girl, let me get you a little cookbook or something. Like, because I have an easy bake oven, and I'm thinking, I never wanted to be a chef, but I was like, okay, I'll be baking and stuff until you get exposed to other thoughts of what could possibly be. And then being in a metro city does help, right? Because Atlanta is a great stomping ground for, this exact market that you find yourself navigating. So do you have, I think I just answered the question, but do you have one event that was really just like, oh, that was like the best event I've ever experienced, like in that role or some of that previous role that you was in? If you could name one.
I would say the Outcast events were definitely the biggest highlight, because one, it was something that my peers wanted to go to. Two, it was something that had a lot of pride, just being from Atlanta, being an Outcast fan, and like seeing it come to life. And then the other part is that what people don't forget, or what people forget, is that it was a total surprise. Like, people didn't know, they were touring, like they're doing like little festival stuff, but like that Outcast Outlast concerts in Atlanta, like when we found out that they were even interested in coming and playing in Atlanta and doing that reunion, it was top secret for about 3 months. And so wanting to keep the secret as like literally like one of your favorite artists. And like, this is my first year working full time in my first big girl job, and first, major concert that I would be involved in from a planning perspective. And at that time, I was working under the director of business development. So I was seeing the contracts. I was, literally typing up what the deal points were and sending it back to the promoter and seeing if they would accept it. And then it was this whole thing about, okay, you literally can't tell anyone, because if you tell someone, it literally messes up the surprise. So like, just in the same way, look at like Beyonce and she drops those, the album out of nowhere. It's like, I just think about all the people that had to sign those NDAs, like sitting and waiting, having all the footage, having all the deal points, and you can't say a word. What are you working on?
Wow.
Oh, the grass is still green today. Like, that's the type of like anticipation. And then the fact that it sold out in 1 hour, those are the things, like, as an event planner and as someone who works in events, like, you just can't top. And then the euphoria that comes with, okay, now that the tickets are sold in 3 nights, like, it was like, we didn't know it was going to be 3 nights. We were like, okay, let's have a backup if it's 2, but the third one, they were like, there's no way you're going to pull it off. And they did. And that sold in 1 hour as well. And so to see that in full time from beginning to end, to actually being, a concert that you would want to see, and it being so early in my career, that was definitely one of the ones. And anytime I bring it up, there's someone who says, I was there. Like you,
like
right?
I just did.
And so that's the thing. And that's the best thing you can ask for someone in hospitality, that you create memories. And the fact that when you bring it up, people are so excited as if it was yesterday. Like, that's what makes it, to me, one of the top ones I got to see. The fact that it was, a hip hop act, because there's connotations and things that I had to face while I was working there about how we treated different events based off of the audience and based off of on stage. So to be able for that event to go off and be so profitable and be there without incident, I think that's something to take a lot of pride in as well. That, the
Yeah.
way I see culture, whether it be, my Nigerian heritage, whether it be Southern culture, whether it be Atlanta culture, the fact that it was represented well even makes it that much more special to me.
Mm. Well, y'all did that. I know you was a part of this huge operation, but it was so amazing. I was there, but I actually got tickets from my cousin. She sold me a ticket, so I didn't go through the. I bet I was exciting to actually buy the ticket online, but my cousin had an extra ticket. I came through. I had a blast. But that's one of those ones where it's like you had to be there, and
You
if you don't
have
have any proof, it's like, were you there? You know what I'm saying?
you there.
And exactly. I feel like y'all make sure you're recording everything, document everything. Like take a picture, take a selfie. Of course, nowadays people really do that, but even a picture while you're hanging out with friends or whatever, document everything because it's like that's the only proof that you were there, you know?
Mhm.
Um, okay, so talk to me a little bit about. So I hear
Yeah.
hospitality. Then I hear the management piece. Then I hear the chef piece. So there's definitely different layers of what you found to be your safe space and your creative passion. But how do you find balance between your career and your creative pursuits? So number one, are they separate? Meaning let's say if you have a day job or something like that, does it align at all with what you're doing? And if not, how do you find balance between the two?
Yeah, that's a good question because that's actually how Yola's Kitchen started, is that my career was events. Like,
Mhm.
I was not cooking on the job. My job was taking phone calls, meeting with clients, sending contracts and producing events, but there was no food in my day job. And so
Mhm.
when I created Yola's Kitchen, that was the bug that just couldn't, like, would not rest within me creatively. And so that's even how we met,
Yep.
was me stepping aside and coming up with this dinner party concept. Because what I also
Mhm.
found, while I was really excited and really enjoyed my career, I was missing out on key milestones with my friends. I
Mhm.
was, yeah, I was doing the cool events, but nights and weekends did not belong to me. And
Mm.
so, the way I balanced it was, let me just cook and like invite people over, no menu, just what I feel, right? And just be
Mhm.
creative. And then it turned into this amazing thing, because now, you see a lot of private chefs and dinner parties and things like that. But like 8 years ago, it's actually going to be the 8-year anniversary of the first dinner party,
Oh,
um, at the end of this month. It wasn't common. Like, it really
no.
wasn't. We weren't doing that 8 years ago.
Mhm.
I would like to take credit for the fact that I was introducing people to lamb chops. Like, people were not eating lamb chops back then. And now you can't walk past a restaurant in Atlanta without there being lamb chops. But I digress.
Right. Hey, listen, we are on the record. You are being recorded. Okay. So I love to hear it. Like you have to stand your ground for what you think and know to be true.
Mhm.
And a quick little nudge, because we did not share a story time.
Yeah.
So this is how I met Adeola. She and I were out in Atlanta. This I think was 2017,
Yeah.
2018. It was
Yeah.
2018.
Mhm.
And at the time, I had already kind of found my footing as an entrepreneur, joined a company called Giselle Avenue, which I still do.
Mhm.
You can go to the website, whatever. And not whatever, but I'm just saying this
Right.
ain't that. But this is how we met. And so I was on Giselle Avenue, and similar to what Adeola shared, I had been in that same space, but I always knew that I had to be creative first. And so
Mhm.
I would lead with creativity. And honestly, Adeola, I love the advice you gave about money versus creative. Because y'all, I was not thinking about no money. I always knew I was gonna have money, and I
Mm.
always had money. But
Mhm.
my affirmation was that I'm rich and I'm wealthy. So,
Mm.
being creative is just a part of my DNA. It's a part of
Mm.
me.
Yeah.
So but I did do what your mama said, even though she wasn't talking to me. I did the exact same thing. I was in graduate school, so I had some kind of stability and basically income coming in through a program I was a part of for a military program from my stepfather. And so I did have my rent paid, my bills was paid, and I was in grad school. But then I had this window, and I said, I'm gonna move to Atlanta to start my business. Boom, Giselle Avenue. I'm hitting the ground running. And I actually met Yola at a WeWork grand opening in Atlanta. And of course, y'all, I used to love to kick it and just be outside. And it was like under the pen name Belle in the City. So it's like I'm a city girl, I'm a Southern Belle, and I just like to be outside and just meet people. And I met Adeola, and it was so natural, y'all. It was just nothing forced. I was like, I'm Giselle. She's like, I'm Adeola. Then we talked about both of us being Nigerian, which my father is Nigerian. And so we really kind of connected there. And then I invited her to a conversation, which was what I was doing back then. And I learned all about her story and her brand and her passion. And one thing I'm really passionate about is helping people like myself, first of all, helping myself, but then also inspiring, because I wouldn't even call it helping. I'll say inspiring others to really find their own voice and be heard. And so that's kind of how Adeola and I met initially. And y'all, I was at the dinner party. Y'all ate so good. This was back in 2018. Yeah, and I think it's on the blog now. Like, y'all, she was cooking. She was cooking up some fufu. We had all the good Nigerian food. My husband was there. Well, he wasn't my husband at the time. He was my boyfriend, but we was eating, taking pictures. And I was just like, oh, I can't wait to eat here again. But it wasn't like every month, unfortunately, y'all. This ain't that. You can't just come pull up. But I was there when it first, like the creative inspiration. And I saw you go from concept, and we worked together even to bring some things to reality, like a logo, a website. But it was really natural. You know, it was not a force. It did not come off like, okay, I have to get this. It was not that. It was literally Adeola in her being. And I was just slowly pulling stuff out, you know. So with Yola's Kitchen, and talk to us about what inspired Yola's Kitchen, because I know the story, but some of our viewers may not know. So how did you come up with the name, and you know what inspired Yola's Kitchen?
Yeah, so it started off as a way to just reconnect with friends. And the thing about it is that even though I started out wanting to go to culinary school, the reality is I had no formal training, or I didn't have the training that I thought I needed to get started. And so the Yola's Kitchen dinner party concept, first and foremost, was to create connectivity through culture, but it was also a way for me to just practice recipes, challenge myself. Because I wasn't in school, and typically in culinary school, you have different units. You may have a unit on Asian cuisine. You may have a unit on baking and pastry. And so what I would do is I would literally pick, you know, what country or what culture I wanted to recreate dishes for. And I would theme it out, and I would give everyone else assignments, like dress up like we're going to Morocco. And then I would like search through and read different recipes, and create cuisine, or even the national dish for that particular cuisine or region. And so it was actually just a way for me to practice and hone in on my skills, because at the time, like, one, it was a creative bug, but then two, it was a way for me to feel more confident in cooking for other people and learning what it's like, you know, it really was a catering operation, because I rarely did it in my house. I would travel to my other friends' houses that had bigger living rooms than I did. And so some of it was just out of necessity. And then that's actually what made it that much more beautiful, because each person then started to like clamor over, well, I want to host the next one. And I'm like, good, because I don't have to pay to rent a facility or anything like that. And that was another thing. And I don't know if we'll have time to talk about the legal stuff, but that was another thing that I was worried about, because technically speaking, you can't just cook in your home and sell plates. It happens, we do it, whatever. But if you were set up in someone else's private home, you could do that. And so I was 2 birds in 1 stone. I was, you know, remaining compliant with the law. There's no statutes of limitations here. And so when they would say, hey, I want you to come cook for me in my home, that also kept everything above board because of what the cottage laws are when it comes to selling food, or, you know, charging people to cook out of your own home kitchen, and commercial facilities. So it again, you know, it's funny because I remember when I was talking about being the oldest child and having to figure things out myself. I think the good thing that came out of that, and, you know, from a spiritual angle, I look at it that, you know, God gives you everything that you need. Being the first child and having to figure things out is directly correlated to how I've been able to achieve a lot of things that I did achieve, or I am achieving as a business owner, because a lot of entrepreneurship is figuring things out, or being a liaison, you know, a liaison between the venue and the client that has all these demanding ideas, you know, being the liaison between, you know, the bills getting paid and having a smile on your face.
True.
So yeah, I would definitely say that my upbringing definitely helped. But yeah, that's how Yola's Kitchen started, out of necessity, but just that fight to just burst through and express my creativity. So yeah.
Yes. Well, kudos to you. I think as the millennials, because we did mention that earlier, welcome to the other side of being a millennial. Okay. Like,
Aunties
I
now.
feel like if you, I'm sorry.
I said, because we're aunties now. Like,
We are. Well, actually, I've been an auntie girl. I was an auntie at what, 15? So not necessarily the negative, but really looking at it like we all been side hustling. And we've all, not all of us, but many of us, like you, like me, like the people in my network. Because frankly, when we finished college, jobs where, like, opportunities where, like, I'm talking about the idea that you had about career. Like, okay, I studied PR. I'm going to go work for an agency. I'm going to move to New York. Like all these different ideas that we had about industry, they were really just not there. And so I feel like all of us had to get creative when it came to what we saw fit as our own version of success. And what's so beautiful about it is that now that we're in 2024, the times are actually bending to our will because industry has absolutely evolved. It has changed drastically. And I feel like if you're not creative, you're going to have a hard time adjusting to this new world. And so I know, Adeola, we have not talked much since 2020, but long story short, I do believe that we're entering a new world and a new way of doing things. And so, you know, on a spiritual level, similar to what you said, I feel like once we endured the changes of 2020 and then 2021, 2022, 23, we all kind of just like, okay, what was that? Everybody just kind of,
what's going on?
Exactly. Like, somebody tell me what's up. But now in 2024, we're kind of grounding ourselves in our new reality. Like, okay, well, this is who I am, and this is what I'm doing, and this is how I do it. And it's actually homage to the personal brand. So I've been kind of ahead of the curve. So I've always thought in that way. I never really thought I wanted to fit into industry. I figured, okay, this is me, and I'm going to just be myself. And I think when I be myself, I will attract people who align with who I am and what I like. And I think that is the future of work. So these ideas of industry where it's like, okay, you have to do it like this, you have to do it like that. Of course, there are going to be a lot of places that kind of stick to the guns. But even with medicine, we see a lot of more holistic care. We're seeing a lot more people take their health more seriously and more empowerment of self. And so I find the same thing even with food. Now, I mean, honestly, there was a period where you had to read every single ingredient on the back of a box just to make sure you're not eating stuff that you don't want to eat. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so now we're having to all kind of be the experts in everything that we consume with our food, with our drinks, with our water, with everything, because things are just different. So with that being said, I commend you for not giving up on yourself, because it's really all about believing in yourself when nobody else can see. Because who could have seen what you are becoming today, but yourself, right?
Mhm.
It's your vision, it's for you. But when we're trying to, and then good for you, for no offense to parents, we love parents, but for you to be able to navigate your parents' advice,
Yeah.
right? But
Mhm.
still make it your own. That is a game changer, because I know how parents can often sway you into different directions, especially as a Nigerian woman. I'm sure you probably only had one or two choices.
3, right? Doctor, lawyer, engineer. That's it.
That's it.
That's it.
Like, that is your life. I'll never
Mhm.
forget. I finished, well, before I went to undergrad, my father, oh, you need to study computer science. That is it.
That's just
And
it.
I was like, and it's funny, I actually ended up kind of in STEM. I do work in STEM. So he
Mhm.
was right, but it was his approach. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
yeah,
And then
yeah.
I got my master's degree. I finished grad school. I'm thinking I'm just doing it big. He says,
Mhm.
you got your master's degree. Now what?
Right. It's like, what's going on? Like, you get a 98.
What are you going to do next?
Yeah. No, I mean,
Just get something. So how is that? Like, talk to me a little bit about your Nigerian heritage, because I know I shared. I am my dad's Nigerian, my mom's American. I grew up in an American household, American family, American everything. But I am Nigerian. It is my DNA, and I feel like you do a great job at bringing yourself, your fullness, into your work. And my last guest is actually Nigerian as well, and so here we have a trend.
Yeah, right.
But I know it says, but I am being myself. And so by
Yeah.
being myself, I'm going to attract like. But talk to me about how, one, I want to get a little controversial here, but first about the diaspora wars, right? So we have, you talked about, and okay, this is new. You talked about the jollof rice. So we got the different rice, whose rice is better. But then also just your identity as a girl born in America, but you're Nigerian. So you're rooted. Your parents were not, did they come to America first and then you were born here? So talk to me about that, and how has your identity, I guess, evolved? Because I know when we were younger, I hear other like Nigerian friends, they'll say, oh, it wasn't cool to be African when I was little. Like, y'all had jokes, y'all was da da da. But then once we saw the weddings, we saw these shows, like this outburst of Nigerian pride. Everybody like, let me go do my DNA and see if I'm Nigerian. You know, right? But then also having pride in Atlanta. Like, I'm from Atlanta. So talk to me about identity and how you're able to navigate that as a first generation Nigerian girl, parents from Nigeria, you from America, and all that other stuff. So let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so I always lean toward similarities and points of connection, right? But I will say, I was like, looking back, I was very militant in the sense of, you know, embracing my Nigerian heritage. And I say that because even though I was born and raised in Atlanta, like in elementary school, I went to a private school. And then not only was I the only Black girl, like I was the only person of color at that private school. And, you know, it's funny. It's like my mom, you know, wanted me to, you know, have the best things. I think that's the thing with all parents. And one day she heard that, you know, teachers tend to score students better with names that they can pronounce. And so it was like between first and second grade where she, like, instead of like having on my papers Adeola, she put Deola. And like, it's all in second grade. They're like, oh, Deola. And I was like, that is not my name. Like, my name is Adeola. And like, you know, growing up, it was, oh, ravioli, Ebola. No. And the thing about it is that fortunately enough, like I stood my ground. Like, funny enough, like even in high school where people would try to make those jokes about Africans, and that was another thing that used to be said to me when I would say, because again, like first conversation, I'm Nigerian. Like there's a meme going around about that too. Like every Nigerian, like in first conversation, like they're just gonna let you know that they're Nigerian. So I was always doing that.
Good for you. Yeah.
It was like, oh, you don't look African. And I was like, well, okay, I don't know what, like I knew what that meant, But my thing was, change that perception and change that narrative, and so like even despite all of that, like I continue just to embrace who I was and who I am. Like I didn't see any other choice. Like I never tried to have a different nickname. Even like at first conversations when people ask, oh, you have a nickname? I'm like, Adeola. Oh no, what you're the Adeola.
Right. Listen, so you got the oldest daughter. That plays into it. Because the oldest daughter, y'all don't play now. Y'all do not play. My sister, and now that I'm talking to you, I get it. She was always viewed as strict, or let's just say it. She was mean, quote unquote. But now I see why. Like she was the mom, like energy. So it's like you need to stop. You need to do this. And then she ended up having like all these beautiful children. And ironically, I don't even think she's that strict towards them. But she don't have to be, because they are her children. They are in line naturally. Yeah. And so I love that for you, girl. And identity is so important. So you never had them problems. That was never you never considered it a thing. You're like,
I didn't choose those problems, right? I didn't choose to make it a thing. And I think at a certain point, the more you embrace you, it's like people have no choice but to follow suit. Because it's like at a certain point, it looked kind of crazy. It's like if you try to say something about, my name or the way I look or my skin tone, it's like you're looking crazy, because it's like I'm comfortable. Like you can keep on trying, but I still love the way I look and everything. So it got literally, like, I remember one time on the bus, like someone was like, what? Like, she's gorgeous. Like, what are you even talking about? Like, what are you trying to do? Right. I was just like at a certain point, it was like I didn't even have to say nothing. I was like, yeah, what she said. I don't know why. So
I love that.
And the other thing I wanted to add too is the way I went across was connection, right? So it's and I'll bring it in from a cultural food standpoint, right? There's a lot of things that we eat that is so similar, specifically in the South, right? Like we have efo, which is our greens, and then here you have collard greens, and then even if you have jollof rice, you could easily tie it back to jambalaya, right, or red rice in the Carolinas with the Yolaskitchen culture there. And so for me, like I always looked at like, oh my gosh, this is so similar, this is so exciting, and that's how I drew a connection point. Even with grits, I know it's very controversial whether your grits are savory, if you put salt in your grits or sugar in your grits. Like it's so similar to gari, right? And so like we eat gari with sugar, right? But it is a different preparation, it serves a different purpose. But the fact that the way my mind worked was like, oh, there's so much similarity here. Like, let's embrace it and let's come together. So, I mean, I would say even in my friend group, it's equal parts, that are born and raised in Atlanta to the people that may have an Nigerian background or a Caribbean background. So like, I just embraced it. And the thing is, it's funny. It's like, be yourself so that helpers can find you. Like, so it's like if you're so busy trying to be someone else, like I know there's a Yoruba proverb somewhere in there, but basically it's like, be yourself so that your blessings can find you. If you're, busy trying to be someone else, it's like that angel, that person that's here is like, okay, I'm looking for Adeola to bless her with this business. I'm like, oh, she basically somebody else. So it's going to pass you by. So I just, I just stay true to me, and
I love it. That was the Igbo proverb. Igbo. So I'm Igbo. Yoruba. That was the Yoruba proverb. What you just said, that was the proverb, because you said it. That's it. You just created it on air right now. So that was just beautiful. And that's the type of energy that we need to hear and feel and receive from one another, because that is the proverb. You said it. That is the proverb. So thank you for that. So your blessings can find you.
Blessings can find you. Yeah.
And girl, that's a gem or a proverb. So thank you so much for sharing that. And girl, I know we could talk all night. I want to start before we wrap. Talk to me about the Chef Academy. This is a new venture. So talk to me a little bit about what happened last weekend and tell me about the Chef Academy. Because I've been seeing you, y'all. I've been on my social media just scrolling. And I'm like, is it y'all? Like on huge platforms. Talking about these brands have like 300, 500,000 followers, and Adeola is on there. I'm like, what is going on? Did I miss something? So congratulations to your success. I'm in the energy right now. But talk to me about the Chef Academy and what took place this past weekend.
Yeah, so Chef Academy is the newest venture that I've joined forces with. The co-founder is Chef Simone Byron, and you're going to hear a lot more from her later on. But Chef is actually an acronym, and it stands for Culinary and Hospitality Enthusiasts of the Future. So literally it embodies and encompasses is my path in hospitality. There's a culinary side, there's the front of house side, the event side, and it's like enthusiasts of the future. And so it is a space it's a commercial kitchen based in Tucker, Georgia. And it is a place where we train people of all ages. Our main tenet that is there is the Navigate Foundation, which is a 501(c) dedicated to training underserved youth and culinary and soft skills. Because what we found was that the biggest barrier is that ability to handle difficult situations, how to talk to your boss when the time comes for a raise, or even when the time comes to ask for time off. Like having those life skills that, again, right, if you weren't the oldest child, you had to figure it out on your own, but we make that easier for you through the Navigate Foundation, which is a nonprofit. And then separate from that, and then the part about the nonprofit is that we directly place them into full-time jobs with one of the largest food service companies in the world, Compass Group. So not only are we giving them tangible skills that they can use for the rest of their lives, but we're also putting money in their hand by training them up to be able to be successful in these jobs. And they get trained at Chef Academy. Then second to that, Chef Academy is open to the general public for innovative events. And so over the weekend, going back on balancing my day job and creative pursuits, I hosted a cooking demo for a product that I created, and a shameless plug, I have it right here.
Please bring it forward.
It is Adeola Spice, which
nice.
is
I got mine. I bought me some, y'all. So this is not a cap. I bought me some because I was like, it tastes good.
So Adeola Spice, again, was another thing that birthed out creatively during the pandemic for me. Back to that Nigerian upbringing, there's this sauce base that we use for everything. Some people, I like to liken it like sofrito, like in terms of like Latin American culture, that it's like a mixture of garlic and all that kind of stuff. And for us, it's the peppers, tomatoes, onions, and Scotch bonnet or habanero, right? And some extra herbs and spices in there. And I did a cooking demo. And so the whole point was to be able to show people that you can use this same base, draw connections, and put it in your own food. You can use it to create Yolaskitchen dinner party's favorite. So some of it was kind of like a reprise to the old Yolaskitchen dinner party. And so it was educational, and it was just a fun time to connect and have great food. I had 2 students that were part of the Navigate program that we had trained inside the kitchen, and they came up with the recipe that was for the cooking demo. So it was Adeola Spice and coconut mussels.
Yes, so fancy.
And so they created that dish. And so I was talking them through the culture, the story behind it, and everyone got to taste it. And then we had past hors d'oeuvres, which was chicken suya, and then fire roast Adeola Spice put on it. We had Zobo, which is, hibiscus tea, right? But we had a Zobo cocktail. And then in the Caribbean, they call it sorrel. And essentially that was passed around as people came in and they had their little cocktails. And then we had puff puff, for dessert, but it was a twist, right? It was carnival sweet potato puff puff with ice cream and then crushed chin chin on the side. And so again, it was this melting pot of, traditional Nigerian flavors with things that felt approachable in American culture. So it was super exciting to do. I had a full house. It was 20 people. Got to taste, got to see, got to smell, and it was all within Chef. So that was that question. And just, as you can see how excited I am, just reliving that memory. It's a combination of all the growth that Yola's Kitchen has had.
I mean, talk about full circle moment. Like it went from us meeting WeWork, hey girl, to coming out with these grand creative schemes, and they all work. So let's not play. Like we we manifest into reality. We don't just think about it. Then through a whole pandemic, which we all had our own personal journeys through the past 4 years. But now still I rise like the Phoenix, like the Falcon, like Atlanta, to still continue to rise and be called to action and called into your destiny and your purpose, and still be smiling and actually have the energy for 2 days of the next week. I walk in, girl, come on my podcast. And here we are, right? And so God moves quick. It's light speed. Like when you're in your purpose, it moves quick. You don't have time to doubt when you're in your purpose, because God moves quick. So God is just so amazing. And it was just so cool. I was like, I've been trying to get in Yola's Kitchen ever since I ate in 2018 at that party with that macaroni and cheese. And that I was like, I told my husband, I was like, man, we had that beef with the chimichurri sauce.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. I want to roast it. Now I want something. Like it was so good. Yes. And for you to actually now have your own kitchen, and it is so nice in there, y'all. Don't play with her. This is not some small little, no, it's a state-of-the-art experience and space. So congratulations to you. That was just so inspiring to see you walking and operating in your purpose and just being used so that you can continue to be who you are. So Adeola, before we wrap, I want to share 2 things. So 1, how can people reach you if they want to learn more about you and your work? And 2, what advice do you have? Because now that we've talked, this is so much bigger than being a chef. It's like you cook, but it levels to yourself, to your story. So what advice can you give someone who maybe in the world that you're in, like they're in school, but they have a passion for food and they're trying to figure out how to navigate their themselves. So what advice can you give them as we close out? And also, how can they reach you?
Yes. So my advice is to embrace all parts of yourself, even when you feel like you don't fit in. I think the biggest thing for me is that, it's easy to put each other in a box, especially as women. I remember, working in restaurants and saying like, hey, Chris, I had that plan. I was like, let me learn how to cook. And I, oh, what position are you applying for? The kitchen? And it's like, you're looking like a hostess. and just still embracing it and saying, no, I want to apply to work in the kitchen and learn that. And then I did transition out in front of the house, and I did transition out and do events, and it came from embracing all side of myself. And it started even, again, like what we said before, even in elementary school, when it was like that slight little name change. It's like, no, that's not all of me. Keep the A. Keep the A. And so I think that is something that I want people to take away, because again, the only way your blessings can find you is if you stay true to yourself. So that would be my advice. And I would say the best way to get in contact with me is Instagram. I live on Instagram. So Yola's Kitchen, it's, spelled in the bio, but Yolaskitchen, all one word. Because there, not only you get to see a day in my life, whether it is, we didn't need to talk about all the traveling that I get to do, but like all the food that I'm making and eating, even the stuff that I'm doing in terms of teaching at Georgia State University as well, hospitality law. And it also has a link to my website as well. So Yola's Kitchen on Instagram is the easiest way to find me. And then again, if you're being yourself and you're saying what you're interested in, there's something that I have for you. So, Instagram is the easiest way. I do also have a website, ioconsultingco.com. And then if you wanted to know more about Chef Academy, is chefacademyatl.com, and same thing on Instagram, Chef Academy ATL. So those are the different outfits in which to find me, but I have pretty much everything on Yola's Kitchen, so I can direct you where you need to go.
Well, thank you so much, Adeola. This was such an inspiring conversation. And yes, you are so multifaceted that I have to pay attention to the details. And then, maybe you'll come back. I mean, this is an open platform and we could get into the travel component because, like I said, I think it's just so amazing that you're able to just operate in your fullness right now. Girl, it took me this long to finally get there. And I love what you said about, like, I'm giving show notes, like we not recording. We're still recording. But I love what you said about the name. Keep the A. It's Adeola. People been calling me Gigi my whole life. And I'm wondering why I'm having a hard time assuming my position as Giselle. My name is Giselle, okay? I know y'all like to call me Gigi, and I love the idea of Gigi, but at this big age, it's Giselle. And I will answer to Gigi, but my name is Giselle. Like, it's Giselle. It's not Gigi. And ever since I moved to Atlanta, which has been about a decade, a little over a decade, I've only been Giselle, right?
Okay. Yeah. That's how I was
going to say. You met Giselle.
Yeah.
And you're like, who is Gigi? So I am assuming position. I am being say it one more time before we wrap, because I'm gonna ingrain it in my head. The proverb you just shared with us that you just made up.
Oh gosh.
You be yourself so your blessings can find you.
Yes. So yes, the proverb is be yourself or stay true to yourself so that your blessings can find you.
And with that being said, this is the Goddess Giselle podcast, episode 5. Adeola, thank you so much for being here. And thank you guys for watching. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Until next time, bye.
Bye.